Welcome to the Owner to Owner podcast. I'm Michael Kerr, your host, and I'm also the founder of Kerr Capital, where for 22 years now I've worked alongside business owners. Owner to Owner is a business podcast to empower the owners of Australia's small and medium enterprises. Forget the slick stories of tech titans and unicorns. At Owner to Owner we get raw and we get real. Every Owner to Owner episode is a personal conversation with another business owner just like you. We explore the everyday struggles they face and the different pathways they tread to success. Practical advice and plenty of one percenters for better returns, less stress and more enjoyment. You'll find grit, laughs, maybe a few tears and some hard-won lessons only available from others who've been where you are, whatever your stage of ownership. Every owner has a compelling story to share, so join us to listen and to learn. Nigel, you said to me recently something that I think a lot of small business owners think about but don't actually, say out loud. My business is my superannuation. Your business is Chase Basketball. You've just passed a 25-year anniversary, so it's a big congratulations on that. Quite an achievement. It's been and remains your life work. But I'm really keen to dig into why you said what you said, which is my business is my superannuation, and then find out if there's something even bigger and deeper than that. So I'm sure it's going to be the kind of conversation that other small business owners will really tune into and help them to think harder about their own business. So welcome in Nigel Purchase from Chase Basketball to the Owner to Owner podcast.
Thank you, mate. I'm excited and honoured that you've got around to me, Michael, and look forward to the chat today.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. We do go back away, and that's a good thing. So can we just start with Chase Basketball? You've just passed 25 years, which is a phenomenal achievement. So you've had a 25th business birthday. It's a family business. What triggered you to start the business?
Well, it really comes down to me and my personality, actually, Michael. I played professionally for about 10 years with Melbourne Tigers and then Brisbane Bullets, and that was great. But apart from that, it was, what else do I do with my life? And I bounced around from job to job to job until I found something that I really loved. And I also realized about my own personality is that I'm not going to work hard or invest myself into things that I don't really like. And so I found my own motivation and cause within myself. And that was to coach kids. And it sounds simplistic and, quite simple, but there's more to it than just teaching kids how to shoot and pass and dribble and play defense and all that sort of thing. And what I love about what we do is we actually have a positive impact on young basketballers from around Victoria. We're Melbourne centric, really, and I just love it. When I was still playing, I started coaching kids out of my old primary school, actually Green Hills Primary School, and that was kind of the impetus for moving into academies and basketball camps and skills coaching and managing venues. And this year, this calendar year, we'll do, I'm trying to think of the exact numbers, but in a roundabout way, we'll do just over 70,000 hours of kids on court.
Wow.
So it's a lot of coaching. Next year, we'll have 13 academies that are linked into secondary schools. And whilst I do some coaching myself these days, we have around about 30 coaches that go across a whole bunch of venues, and we love it. And we get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing kids, shoot the ball better and play basketball. And the sport's going through a massive growth phase here in Victoria, and I dare say around Australia. But, having a positive impact on the kids is something that really latched onto me and my personality. I get a great deal of enjoyment and satisfaction out of it, and I'll keep doing it until they carry me out from the basketball court in a box of some description, mate.
Well, it's a lot of time with kids, isn't it? It's that many hours. So as you say, beyond the teaching them the skills, it's an opportunity to influence these kids. It sounds like, in a positive way, it sounds like after stopping playing professionally, you did some other things for a period of time, and then came back to what was inside of you, which is I wanted to start to build a business, whatever it was called at the time, but it was around that same theme, right, of coaching and coaching kids.
Yeah, 100%. And I was a sales rep for a while, and I did a job with it through a trade while I was still playing. And they were valuable experiences for me, because sometimes when you've got your business, you have ups and downs, and there's ebbs and flows with finances and the way that you run the business and staff, et cetera, et cetera. But I found that all those jobs that I had in the early days were stuff that I did, but I didn't really love it. So I always think back to that and think, well, stop feeling sorry for yourself. You know, you're working in the sport that you love.
Yeah.
And you feel like we have a positive impact on people, which is great. And then if you can turn a business into something that you love and that's pretty much a hobby, then it's
but
great.
those other jobs and things that you do, they're all part of helping you get to a decision that, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do my thing, which is what you've done. And having just passed 25 years, it's a great achievement. Then you had a very strong purpose for starting the business, but did you start out thinking, I'm going to build a business and I'm going to build value into it and build, 30 coaches, or was it just you were doing your thing and then we'll see what happens?
No, actually not. And I'll say this, and I've been having to think about our conversation today, but I don't think I'm particularly good at business, which is not me being self-effacing, it's just being honest. And I gravitate towards things that I like to do, and quite often it's not about making money, which sounds funny. And, most of business, I would dare say, and you're an expert in it, Michael, so you would be able to confirm, but most business, the vast majority of our business is making money and building wealth. And we've done okay, but a better business person, and I'm not trying to talk myself down here, but a better business person would be further advanced than where my business is after 25 years. But in saying that, I absolutely love it.
That's a big win right there, Nigel, that you still love what you do. And, there are, I think on the flip side, there are people who wealth build and out of a business, but that's the purpose for them, is to, and that's okay. But I think there's a lot of people who like to have this sense of, I'm doing something I like. I can always do better. But if you're fundamentally still happy to be in your own business after 25 years, that's a very big win. And I think a part of the reason I was keen to chat to you was because that kind of thinking, it's okay. You don't have to be a gazelle or whatever, like a billionaire.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and that's, you and I both agree on that, on those particular points. And for me, a lot of our coaching's done early in the mornings. I'm not sure if this is if this is dated chat today, but we've just finished our academy year. So we go for 32 weeks a year with these secondary schools, and I'm up at 5:30, and I think a lot of people, through their working career, they don't love going to work. Maybe this is just my theory, maybe it's inaccurate, but I get out of bed early and just love going to work and arrive at these courts, and kids come into the venue and they have, they've got a smile on their face. We have a thing where we say we want the kids to smile in and then smile out. So they smile when they come to our sessions, and then they smile when they leave. And, in the day and age where kids are pretty much, in fact, everyone's addicted to their phone, it's just a nice thing for them to have a break with us. And the sport. The sport's so popular. I'd like to say that we run good programs, but the sport of basketball is extraordinarily popular, and we've been the benefactor of that.
Yeah. Well, and a contributor to that. So, yeah. Just at a practical level, you went in doing something that you wanted to do. You tried some jobs, and that's a good pathway in. What were when you think back, some of the bigger challenges that you had early days in trying to at least pay yourself a wage?
Well, it's hard, and it's difficult because basketball hasn't always been as popular as it is today. And, I think especially in Victoria, everyone thinks about the AFL and that sort of dominates things. In fact, I hosted an event last Thursday, and I was for Diamond Valley Basketball Association. The special guests there were, who I interviewed, was Kevin Sheedy and also Jenna O'Hare, who's a former Opals captain. And I got up and spoke to the people that was a business dinner. And I said, Victoria it's an AFL state, and we can't deny that, and we love the AFL. But Victoria is as much a basketball state as the AFL is. and we have the greatest infrastructure for basketball anywhere in the world, with
Wow.
1,100 indoor courts. And so I always look back on my jobs, and I look back and I feel like I've been very, very fortunate. And along the way, there's always the business issues like cash flow, and I tried things that didn't work, and still today try some things that don't work. But I kind of like the chase, no pun intended, of trying different things and seeing how they go. And so within that, we understand the market really well through trial and error. And I've got a really good small group of staff who have got amazing experience and really care about the business and share the same sort of motivations that I do. And so, yeah, there's always challenges, it's like Michael, being in your own business. And small business is difficult because of the red tape and all the things you have to do to, survive and meet the standards of government and the local community. So
Yeah.
there's much more upside than downside with all this.
Yeah. So did you somewhere I was reading or listening to an interview you did on your 25th business birthday, and you talked a lot about mentors. Is that one of the things? And at the time I was thinking you went through a coaching regime, right? You were a professional basketball, so you had a lot of coaching support. So going into business, you were used to the idea of being coached or mentored, and that's what I took from it. But did you actively seek out and use mentors as a way to skill up and try and avoid making some mistakes that perhaps you didn't need to make in business?
Well, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 people that who I've really looked up to as far as the way that we conduct ourselves, and trying to, develop your own personal policies as well. And, I grew up with the Gaze family. When I was 15, 16, I went from Eltham Basketball Club to the Melbourne Tigers. And in that, the very first time that I played, my very first game for the Melbourne Tigers, we were asked to pick up this tall, skinny kid from Albert Park, and then we drive down to Chelsea, and then we play, and we picked up this kid, and I got my uniform, which was made by Margaret Gaze, and the whole time down, my dad was driving. We drove down to Chelsea, and this bloke was talking about his dad the whole time. I didn't know the significance of it at the time, but it was Andrew Gaze, and he was talking about his dad, who was a national coach at the time. And I was a bit vague back then, and I'm still pretty vague these days, Michael. But
You're relaxed.
yeah, and then I used to live out in Greensborough, and then Greensborough was very much an outer suburb way back when I was a youngster, and in the early 80s, which not these days. But so on the weekends, I would go in on a Friday night and play my junior basketball. I'd stay with the Gazers until Sunday night. We'd train with the Melbourne Tigers, and at the time there was Alan Westover and Brian Gorgian playing for the Tigers, and Andrew and I would go to the Spaghetti Theatre on Saturday nights and have some spaghetti after training, and then we'd go back and stay at his place in St Kilda, and I'd train on the Sunday, and then I'd go home back to Greensborough on the Sunday night. And that happened for a long time. And over that time, you sort of observe. I think I'm a pretty good observer, and I watch the way the Gaze family go about their business, and Lindsay in particular. And he's still with us these days, but he's, getting along in the tooth. But I really grew to admire the way that they go about, the way they conduct themselves with a great deal of humility. And they always put the sport of basketball first, and they're servants to the game, so always doing the right thing by the game. And I'd like to think that what we do at Chase kind of mimics that, and they're the standards that we have. And also, to add to that, Janet Gaze is my general manager, and she makes sure that we conduct ourselves in the absolute utmost professionalism and high ethics, etc. So,
and tapping into someone who's got some business now, some experience that is valuable in a growing business, because you can't do it all.
Exactly, yes. So I also had a coaching mentor, or a business mentor in Ned Coton. Ned runs his own business, but he was the chair of Basketball Australia at the time, and he gave me a lot of advice over the years. He's not so involved these days, but I took a lot of instruction and advice and support from him over time. My dad was a businessman as well, so he's he was also fantastic. And so, yeah, so I've had some really good people around me, and I think that's been key to us being able to survive for, 25 years. Actually, our business has been going longer than 25 years. It was registered 25 years ago. We've been doing this sort of stuff for much longer than that. So I've been very fortunate, and I think being humble and grateful for everyone that's around you and the sport that I'm involved in has been what underpins me as a person and also our business.
Yeah, it comes through really strongly. Uh, the term family business is thrown around a lot, and there's hundreds of thousands of them. But for you, what does like family mean to a family business? What does that mean to you? Because I suspect it goes beyond family to to staff and others. It's a broader family than just the people in your immediate family.
It is, and one thing I learned growing up, and and this comes down to, being a good parent or just being lucky with the parents I had, but just playing sport and, put chase basketball to the side for the moment, but just playing sport. I know you love your sport and your kids play sport, but when you take your kids around to games and practice and whatever it is, and you're driving with them in the car and you've got their attention, it's a really important part of parenting, I believe. And so I did that with my 3 kids. Jack's still playing. Jack's playing for the Brisbane Bullets at the moment, and we have this great relationship, and our commonality in our relationship is our basketball. And my 2 girls played basketball as well. And so and then Jack works in our business a little bit, and so is my wife, Simone, and the kids support and help out wherever they can. So there's very much that immediate family. But there's things that we do which I'm really proud of, and I kind of consider these people part of my broader family. And one story I really like is 10 years ago, this Greek guy came around, met him through the Melbourne Tigers, and he didn't speak a lot of English, or his English was had a Greek slant on it, put it that way. And he came out from Greece, his family were here, his kids wanted to play basketball, and I invited him to come and coach for us. And I watched the way he coached, and, the good thing about sport, even if you can't speak the language 100% perfectly, just through actions and through instruction, you can still be effective. And everything he did, I agreed with, and I'm very much into the European style of basketball. Everyone loves the NBA, but I love the team element and the concepts of European basketball. And so he started coaching for us, and 10 years just recently, he's our main coach. He does more hours for us than anyone else. And we've been able to play. Him and his wife and kids are very, very grateful for the work that we've given them. And I feel really good about that because he's got a cleaning business, clean houses, there's no harm in that. But his passion is basketball. Yeah. So we've been able to take him into the Australian society and the Australian basketball sort of group and family, and make him feel, give him maybe some greater value and greater enjoyment in living here in Australia. And we've got, 25.
But he's been with you for like decades then.
Yeah, he's been with us for a decade, yeah. And it's helped him financially as well. He's just about to go back to Greece to see his family next week. And I feel like we've contributed to that and feel proud of that. And I've got a really good friend out of it as well. And that is, you can extrapolate that out into many of the other coaches that we have. And people come in and out because it's a bit transient, and that's fine. But most of the people that are involved in our business are terrific people, and you feel like they're family.
Yeah, I guess in that environment, hopefully anyone that doesn't fit gets weeded out quickly because it's a growing business, but it's still, there's a handful of you that probably run it. I mean, there's lots of coaches, but yeah, it's a unique environment, family business. Do you have plans for any of the kids to take on the business? I wanted to get into that later, but
well, Lucy, my oldest girl, she's Jack's the oldest. She's a teacher at Ivanhoe Grammar. Grace is into her real estate, and she's working for Jellis Craig and working very hard. And then Jack would be, Jack's playing for the Bullets in the NBL right now, and it would make sense for him to be involved. What I found, though, is even if I have these plans for my kids, if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. So there's no use you can't force them onto it. And so I think in my mind, I'm thinking with Jack's personality and skills, it makes perfect sense for him to, get involved more and maybe manage and run the business one day. But you
Yeah.
can't, you know what it's like with kids, you can't force them to do anything, and he has to find his way to it. And he
Yeah.
might want to be more independent than
Yeah.
just working for the family business. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But if he doesn't, we've got good people around us, and I don't see myself ever moving out of the business and just sitting around picking the fluff out of my belly button, mates.
No, your kids grew up in a family business environment, so that alone, and your wife, it's Simone, you feel what's going on, don't you? When business has its ups and downs, and it kind of reverberates through, or can reverberate through the family, and that's an exposure to what it's like to be a small business, and it isn't for everybody, and whilst you're deep into it, it doesn't necessarily follow. You don't want the pressure on anybody else to pick that up later. It's got, as you said, it's got to be their call. But it is an important discussion, or at least ongoing discussion to have, because the business is, you're loving it. You're going to be there for as long as you can. But then there's that you've built. I suspect you might come to some point where it's about there is a legacy opportunity, right? To see this thing keep going when you want to play a bit more golf, or whether
Well,
that's a thing.
the beauty of my business and where we're at is that I can play golf often now anyway. Not that I'm very good at it. I'm not as good as you. Let me put it that way, Michael, because I've seen you hit a ball and you're very, very good at that sport. But I have the great lifestyle, and what I say to people when they ask about business and life is my goal has been to get through life in a tracksuit. So, I'm getting close to that. I'm wearing a tracksuit right now, and and so
a bit of merch. It's great.
Yes, a little bit of merch. But,
so was that, and so that was. I mean, that's. You said self-effacing earlier about. I mean, when you get to a point where you've lasted as long as you have in business and you can go play golf, that's a pretty positive and notable achievement, like to get it to that point. It's a mighty fine thing to be able to have that flexibility, because it's, aside from just bucks out of a business, having something that you care about doing that makes you enough for your own lifestyle, and gives you the lifestyle if you want to go fishing or play golf or whatever it is. That's a mighty fine achievement. Hi there, just a short interruption and a message from Kerr Capital. Kerr Capital specialise in advising business owners who want to get sale ready, or, as is increasingly common, get approached out of the blue by a potential buyer. If this is you, I know there'll be plenty of big questions and a lot of uncertainty. We're expert at supporting owners in making significant personal and business decisions, and then helping create a really strong plan of action. If you want to find out more, contact us at the Kerr Capital website, and then we can book a 45-minute no-obligation discovery call. Now let's head back to the podcast.
Well, thank you. And you always, I think generally in life, you always think of the things you could have done better. And, of course, we'd all like to have more money, but I've got a great family and a great wife and a good business, and I've got freedom, and all my kids still want to see us and talk to us. And my theory on life and business has always been that life's about now. And, I hear lots of stories of people that work in jobs they don't really love and in industries they don't really love. And they might accrue a lot of money, et cetera, and then they, retire and try to figure out what they're doing, or they drop off the perch, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I've been really fortunate to be able to just enjoy the work. I live for the moment. I'm fairly well travelled. My kids have never had to go without things. I've got the most awesome wife who's very understanding and puts up with me and my.
Well, Simone works in the business. Well, yeah, she has worked in the business basically the whole time, right? But in different roles at, different hours or whatever.
Yeah, she's the backbone, in all honesty. And also Janet Gaze, who's our general manager, and got this awesome program manager, Alan Parry, who's we just stumbled on her through the Tigers once again, and just fantastic.
Yeah.
So our people are great, and you're always worried about people leaving because it will leave a big void when you have a small business, because it's not just it's not like BHP or these, the big four professional groups that have specific roles. Everyone's involved in everything from answering the phone to coaching kids to pumping up basketball. So it's quite a diverse existence.
Would you say so finding the right group of people to run the business as well as the coaches, that's the secret. If you get the right people, you're a fair way on to achieving whatever you want from your business?
Yeah, I think so. Well, 100%. And I'm in the people business, because if you don't treat people right, then it affects your customer base. So we've always been very, very good to our customers, and the people that we lead our business, from, I'd like to think me, but also Janet, Simone and Alan, have been incredible. And I think, especially these days, a lot of the young people are quite transient in that they're always looking for the next opportunity and maybe more money, et cetera, and the work lifestyle balance. So if you can actually observe the trends of business and then adapt to it and almost preempt it, I think that's a way of keeping people, because there are always signs of people are going to leave. And when you have a small business, the whole, training people to do jobs that are quite intricate and important can be a lot more difficult than trying to hold on to important people within your business.
Yeah.
So we've been really fortunate to have people that have stuck around for a while, and they love it. They're a bit like me. They actually love the game, and they do volunteer work within the sport as well as working for us.
Yeah, that's I don't know if you have a mission statement or a value statement, but it does sound like you've got people very aligned around a common purpose, which is serving the industry or the sport, and making kids better basketballs, better people.
Well, we have a mission statement that's kind of a bit loose, but we have an Indigenous term, and I can't pronounce it, so I don't want to seem disrespectful, but way it's translated into English is to play is to belong. And I think that, parents and kids are looking for somewhere to belong. And I feel that our staff is relevant to our staff and our managers as well, that, they feel like they belong in our business, and it gives them purpose and, a good feeling. And, I think this time of year, we're just a few weeks out from Christmas. I think generally you kind of summarize your year in the back of your head. You're like, what have I done this year? Yeah. And, if you can look at a few things that you've done that have been significant and of purpose and of value to society, then to individuals, then I think that's all relevant. So to play, to belong is our motto. I'm not sure if that's a mission statement, but it might fit into both categories.
It's got the team united around something, and it sounds entirely consistent with everything you've said. Yeah. Job done. I want to come back to, because we were playing golf when you said this to me, that my business is my super, and I thought it's really intriguing. What are you? I think we're playing against each other, so I didn't want to get too friendly and talk about this at length. Or we'll save it for the.
I'm sure you were winning anyway. I could put it that way.
For you, what does that actually mean? And is there more to it? What's your take on that?
Well, earlier in our chat, I talked about how I don't think I'm a great business person. I think I'm okay with people, and I understand myself enough to forge this business and make an okay living out of it. But earlier, I don't necessarily have a great superannuation package behind me where, people have had, it's okay, but it's not like I'm in the millions of dollars where I've got a super that I can rely on to.
So, at a very practical level, you've put a lot of your whatever returns out of the business into other, back into the business and into all the, having kids and school and whatever.
Exactly. So our plan is that the business could be sold, but I don't really want to sell it because it's an important part of our culture and of our social groups. My vision is that Jack takes over and my son takes over and gets more involved. Who knows if that will actually work or not? But in a way, I feel like I've been retired my whole life, Michael. I don't feel like it's work. And so how my life pans out is maybe maybe my knees give way a little bit and aren't quite as, maybe I don't want to be on the court so much.
Yeah.
In that, so the business provides me and our family with income ongoing, so that,
Yeah.
when we hit 65 or 70, there's still some income coming into daily life for us. That
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
so
It's not the passive investment. Well, you're probably somewhere between. I mean, if you had whatever in super the checks just come in and you hope the market doesn't crash, it's all fine. But with you, it's an established business. You do have the flexibility to do other things, but it's got a structure in place that helps run the business. But you also have an earn out of it, which is you seem it's okay. It might be we don't have to go into the specifics of that, but that's it's a but I guess what I like about that is also that superannuation is very passive. You could probably crank it if you decided you wanted to crank it up a bit and go to New South Wales, or you wanted to scale it back because you can do that. You got your hand on the lever to some extent.
it is. I do, and I'm a big country western fan. I'm a big country music fan, and there's a song, and I'm trying to think of who sang it, but there's a line in it. It goes, "If I wasn't doing this, I'd be doing this." So I don't ever feel like retiring.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that, and maybe that'll change over time, but I always want to be involved. And there's another saying, I don't know where I got this, but it's a great achievement to be content with what you have. And I'm content with what I have in life. And I've got a lot of very, very, very wealthy friends and family around me. I don't think they're any happier than me. I think that they've got a lot of assets and a lot of money, and good luck to them. I'm happy for them. But I'm very content with where I am in life and what I do and what it gives back to me. And maybe that's foolish. Maybe the essence of business is to strive for more and to accrue more, but I'm very happy with where we're at.
Yeah, it is for some, and it's definitely not for others. I think there's a big chunk of business owners who are betwixt and between that, and that's part of when I talk to people on the podcast. And the work I do professionally. Here's my business. What's it worth? Do I want to sell? You need to do some thinking about is your business even sellable? But then once you've got a bit of a line in the sand, then for me it always comes back to, but what do you want to do? And if you really hate your business, sell it.
Yeah.
But if your business could be fine tuned in a way so that you are a bit more, works better, it's more efficient, it makes a bit more money, or it's less stressful. Again, you got a hand on the lever. So I think there's a lot of noise around about 10xing your business and striving for this and doubling that. And I honestly think there's a lot of owners who somewhere need to have a reflective discussion and actually go back to why am I in business and what do I want out of it? Having this return rather than that return, if that's what you want and you can do that, great. You don't get envious of others, just find out what you want and be happy with that, as you said.
I don't want to sound like I don't. I do enjoy the growth of that business and the existing programs that we have. From this year to next year, we go from 8 to 13 academies within secondary schools. So I really enjoy that part of it. But if you're going to doing growth for growth's sake and you don't put on a good program and get good people, and then it can damage the brand, and then that, I think, diminishes the enjoyment out of it. But we've got a reasonably large growth pattern coming up. But if that growth wasn't there, I'd still be very happy, coaching the kids that we coach, and always try to develop things and do the old McDonald's, do you want fries with that? So we have a customer base and we coach them, but could we take them overseas on tours, and can we do this and that? And I do a lot of charity things with that involve basketball, and we've got a big Bowel Cancer Legends Day coming up next February at the State Basketball Centre. So I sort of head that up with Peter Gibbs, actually. You would know Peter Gibbs. Michael, who's an amazing oncologist and specialises in bowel cancer, and we're doing that in conjunction with him. I'll invite you to that, Michael, so please get involved.
Great. And he's doing remarkable work, and people coming together to support these things is the grassroots stuff that is so vital.
Well, I went up to your Traralgon Day and for you to support
Yeah, from
your great
motor
dad.
neurone disease. Yeah, I think we
Was
had 6 or 7 years.
was there a certain hole there that I might have hit a good shot, Michael? You want to start talking about that?
Yeah, it was the 15th, and from memory, it was you for some bizarre reason decided you were going to have a beer because you're not a
Not a
beer
beer
drinker.
drinker.
And the next thing that happened, the ball went up the hill, down the hill, into the hole. There was great rapturous applause from around the course. So you really put our team on the map down there in
You didn't have
Sunny
to talk
Grove.
about that on the podcast, mate, but thanks for doing that.
That was great. It was a great moment. Funnily enough, it was I think it's the same hole that my dad had his only hole in one on.
There you
I'm
go.
not sure, and he was playing on his own, so it was an ongoing joke that
There's an
yeah,
asterisk
right.
over it. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking forward, 10 years or so for the business and for the vision for Chase, is it more of the same, or are you stewing up some ideas about anything else for continuing the great business and legacy, if we want to? Does that kind of occupy your mind a lot, or is it just doing what you do?
Yeah, it'll be more of the same. It'll be more of the same, but I think growth will occur. In fact, growth is already occurring, which is, I'd like to say it's our brilliant business acumen, but the sport is incredibly popular. Basketball, I keep talking about this to people, not just on this podcast, but, the people that are involved in basketball are just absolutely amazed at the success it has. I've been hosting an old boys, like the Carbine. It's almost like the Carbine luncheon for football. I've been hosting that for 16 years, and we have it next week. And I'm interviewing Warwick Giddy, the dad of Josh Giddy, and Darren Smith, the dad of Alana Smith, and Ezzy Magbagor, and also the CEO of the WNBL next Friday. So we'll keep on doing those sort of things. I really enjoy my involvement in the sport. It's a travel sport. I'd love to see us get to a point where we're taking tours overseas.
Yeah. Okay.
We're talking about starting a December tournament in Hawaii with our academies and other teams that might come over from Australia and Japan. Jack went to University of Hawaii for 4 years in
Okay. So
Oahu.
there's some things on the horizon, and because you said Victoria, in terms of infrastructure, is world class or best in class, I think, with the number of courts indoors and general infrastructure.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's Nick Honey, the CEO of Basketball Victoria, and I see him regularly. He's involved in this bowel cancer program that we're working on, and he's perpetuated what Lindsay Gay started 50 or 60 years ago. Lindsay had the vision of building basketball courts, and it's the old sort of adage, build it and they will come. Build it,
Yeah.
and the kids have been able to play. And I think it's just under 1,100 indoor community courts in Victoria, and go anywhere in the world, and you do not get that sort of infrastructure for the sport. A lot of people think of America, and America has the big stadiums, and they promote themselves well, and they look after a lot of a small group of people. But my analysis is they might have a high school team. They'll have 150 kids try out, and they select 15. In Australia, if 150 kids come to try and make a team, they all make a team, and they play domestic. They play in an organised competition, and they go on to rep. And there's a defined pathway
Yeah.
for them to become as good as they can be. Sometimes that is going to America and playing in their collegiate system, but the sport is pure here. It's done for the right reasons. It's great for the community. It's great for family, and I really can't find too many negatives about basketball.
I saw a shining example of it, King of the Court, which is a street ball tournament, which is run by Mitch Lang, and I think he's been going 5 years now. And I was down there a couple of weekends ago, and multicultural and male, female teams, dunking competition, and it was such an energy. It was great to see that live and up close. He's done an incredible job. Yeah, so the sport's alive and well. It's a good infrastructure for you, and as a big part of the ecosystem. So many great things ahead. So you've had this 25 plus years, so whatever that, we'll have to nail that down, but it's not really, it's just a detail. I was really keen to tap into, I mean, you do have a philosophy on on the way you run your business, the way you've grown it and how you operate it and why you're in it, all the good things. So if you were chatting or advising one of those, I said there's a lot in the middle who are kind of betwixt and between. What would your couple of things be to them to say, this is what I would, if you ask me, this is what I would say you should do if you're not quite happy and you're not quite sure where you are with your own business?
Well, it's kind of, that's a difficult thing for me to answer because I don't preach, or I'm not here to necessarily give advice, which may
No,
go
nothing.
against
Just
the
giving
grain.
your take on it. Yeah.
Yeah. If I was to, and my business is unique in that we're doing something we absolutely love. We don't, I think most businesses serve a purpose, but my business serves, every purpose, which might sound a bit obnoxious, but that's the way I feel about it.
Mm.
So I've been really fortunate to find what is my number one, like my biggest passion. And that is, I think I'm a frustrated teacher. Maybe I didn't get the qualifications for it, but I really enjoy the interaction and helping, kids feel like they belong somewhere and that they're
Yeah.
good at something. And we have this thing about overwhelming positivity in that, we like to have fun with, coaching the kids. I've found what I really love. I've found it. I have a level playing field on, there's no hierarchy within our administration. So everyone's as important as each other. I think everyone feels important to what we do, and we don't talk down to anyone. If anything, we're just super positive with people, and when they do something that's of value, then it's recognised, even if it's just a comment, just to say, Fan, that was great that you did that, and thanks. And also the coach, our coaches as well, that is more sessional than, but we're just patting people on the back all the time and saying thanks for being involved and thanks for all the good work you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether that happens a lot in general business. So
No, look, I think a lot of big and small businesses strive to have a culture of whatever it might be, but I don't think that it's hard to manufacture something. I think it sounds to me like you've got great people because you've got great people. There's trust. There's not a lot of hierarchy, and it's kind of organic. Sounds a bit a bit hippie, but I think it's an incredible asset to have that sort of vibe around the place. And I think a lot of people, a lot of owners struggle with trying to identify what it should be and then implement it. So I've had plenty of conversations with owners who have, and particularly in partnerships, or a lot of things go wrong, but when nothing goes wrong, it can almost be a bit boring. And it's like, I want to do something else. Well, other people would look at you and say, what you've got is really, really good. Don't mess with it. But that's the thing. It's kind of like a good culture leads to, maybe it could even be leading to thinking, well, I want to do something, I want to rev it up or do something new. But I'm really about is working for you.
yeah, the grass is not always greener, is it?
And you don't have to overanalyze it or over-explain it.
No.
So yeah, it's a beauty. All right, Nige, if you got a really good offer you couldn't refuse from the ruling party at the time, so we want you to come up and be the minister for small business, and your brief was to supercharge, or not supercharge, to build in resilience into our small business economy, because there's a lot of them and they are big contributors. So is there anything, you talked about red tape earlier, but is there anything particularly you would do if you got to put your feet under the cabinet table and could sign away on a couple of initiatives?
Well, getting back to the red tape, it is very, very difficult to run small business so if your turnover is $10 million, which mine's a long way off that, on the lower side, but if you can employ departments, you can have people that you can have your accountants and your planners and this and that, your HR and all this sort of thing. And I think it's difficult for a lot of small businesses to have to do every facet of every part of small business, which I might have put the right terminology around that. If I love politics for entertainment reasons, and I watch a lot of CNN and I watch a lot of American politics because
it's
I
addictive.
find it funny, but it's also getting a little bit dangerous and scary at the moment. But my analogy of the political system, and maybe I'm getting off track here, is that I think a lot of people that are out there in the political game have not worked in business, and they have not run a business, and I think the system is somewhat flawed in that, you're putting people with portfolios who don't really understand the nuances of that. And so they're making big decisions about businesses that they don't really know anything about. Yeah. And yes, they can go to the consultants and get the consultants to give them advice. But my thing would be, it would be great to have people in politics who have greater experience in the real world. As a general statement, red tape is a problem, not understanding the difficulties of, I think there's a consensus that every small business is making money and that we're all making millions of dollars. It's certainly not the case. And whilst I've got a business that I love and enjoy and I'm at ease with the return and the rewards, I look around at all these cafes and things of that. They put in so much time that's really unrewarded. And yes, there is some good upside if you're really good at it, but the downside is really quite challenging and difficult.
On that, the good reflections, Nigel, on that one particularly about the small business experience of the political class. I think there was a Aspirations, Bruce Bilson heads up that. I'm pretty sure it was a set of recommendations to come out, reduce red tape, but one of them was, and it's not brand new, but it's a good one, ensuring that certain ministers had to spend time in small business every month.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure it was them, but take your point, and it's a really good one because there's an awful lot of them, and the pathway into politics. There's a few. I think been a few notable ex-small business people. Bruce Bilson was one that comes to mind, but more of them. All right, Nige, that's been a really great chat. I've enjoyed it, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of other owners have a bit of a deeper reflection on their business, why they're in it, and what they want out of it. So thank you for contributing that. It's been.
Thanks for taking interest in it, Michael. We're friends first and foremost, and for us to sit here and chat about my business is nice of you, and appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll see you very soon.
We will. If somebody wanted to, are you happy if somebody wanted to reach out to you to have a chat? Or
Right.
Nigel at Chase Basketball. Nigel Purchase. All right. Thanks, Nigel.
Thanks, mate.
So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Owner to Owner and got some helpful advice and maybe some more clarity on how to make your business work better for you. To subscribe or to listen back or to access any of the resources or information we talked about in this episode, head over to the website owner2ownerpodcast.com.au, or you can search up Owner to Owner Podcast on your favourite pod player. If this episode or the podcast generally is really helpful, I'd love it if you could leave me a like, a rating or a review, but even more than that, I'd love it if you could share it with another business owner. There's a new episode out every couple of weeks. I'll catch you then.